Okay, do you remember which line we were at?
Part two.
Okay. Oh, we weren't that far yet, were we? We were, okay. So part 2.
He did not come at morning. He did not come at noon. And out of the tawny sunset, before the rise of the moon, on the road the gypsies' ribbon looping the purple moor, a red-coat troop came marching, marching. King George's men came marching up to the old inn door.
Okay, so at this point it says he didn't come at noon. Okay, he wasn't there in the morning. So obviously he's hiding out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we know that they're on to him. And then when it has the redcoat troops, okay, so those are the British, so King George's men, so those are his soldiers. They're coming up to the old inn door. Okay, so they're on to him, right? Why do you think they're at the inn? How do they know that he'd be coming to the hotel? Okay, perhaps Tim told them, right? Let's find out.
They said no word to the landlord, they drank his ale instead. But they gagged his daughter and bound her to the foot of her narrow bed. 2 of them knelt at her casement with muskets at their side. There was death at every window, and hell at one dark window, for Bess could see through her casement the road that he would ride.
Okay, so obviously they're there to get the highwayman, and they know what he's coming back for. Okay, so they kind of take his daughter, the landlord's daughter, hostage. Okay, and they're gonna wait. They're gonna wait there until they see him coming. Okay, so she has a good view of, it says, the road that he would ride.
They had tied her up to attention with many a sniggering jest. They had bound a musket beside her with the muzzle beneath her breast. Now keep good watch, and they kissed her. She heard the doomed man say, look for me by moonlight, watch for me by moonlight. I'll come to thee by moonlight, though hell should bar the way.
Okay, so who said those 3 lines to her before? The highwayman. Okay, so only she heard them, obviously the highwayman because he said it, and then like you said, Tim. Okay, so obviously it has to be Tim who told. Okay, why would he tell?
Because he liked her.
Yeah, he's the one that's in love with her. Okay, and he's jealous. Okay, so they have her tied up, and it says that they have a muzzle, facing her chest. Okay, a muzzle is a what? Yeah, it's a gun, right? So, okay, so they have that facing her.
She twisted her hands behind her, but all the knots held good. She writhed her hands till her fingers were wet with sweat or blood. They stretched and strained in the darkness, and the hours crawled by like years.
Okay, so it says she writhed her hands. So what's writhed mean?
Twist or move.
Good. If you look off to the right, it says to twist or move painfully. So she's trying to get out of the knots, and obviously they're tied so tight, it's making her hands bleed so bad.
Till now, on the stroke of midnight, cold on the stroke of midnight, the tip of one finger touched it. The trigger, at least, was hers. The tip of one finger touched it. She strove no more for the rest. Up she stood, up to attention, with the barrel beneath her breast. She would not risk their hearing. She would not strive again, for the road lay bare in the moonlight, blank and bare in the moonlight, and the blood of her veins in the moonlight throbbed to her love's refrain. Clot, 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 had they heard it? The horse hooves ringing clear. Clot, 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 clot in the distance. Were they deaf that they did not hear? Down the ribbon of moonlight, over the brow of the hill, the highwaymen came riding, and the redcoats looked to their priming. She stood up straight and still. Clot, clot in the frosty silence, clot, clot in the echo.
So who's coming in the distance? The highwayman. So if he comes, what are they going to do? Yeah, it says that they're priming their muskets. And if you look at the bottom, number 9, it says prepared their muskets by pouring in gunpowder used to fire them. Okay, so they're obviously going to shoot him if he shows up there.
With night, nearer he came and nearer. Her face was like a light. Her eyes grew wide for a moment. She drew one last deep breath. Then her finger moved in the moonlight. Her musket shattered the moonlight. Shattered her breast in the moonlight and warmed him with her death. He turned, he spurred to the
Okay, now, that last line. Shattered her breast in the moonlight and warned him with her death. What did she just do?
Kill herself.
She just killed herself only because she wanted him to hear the gunshot to warn him. Okay? She doesn't want him to die, so she takes her own life.
Westward, he did not know who stood bowed with her head o'er the musket, drenched with her own blood. Not till the dawn he heard it, and his face grew grey to hear how best the landlord's daughter, the landlord's black-eyed daughter, had watched for her love in the moonlight and died in the darkness there.
Okay, so it wasn't till the next morning, it's saying here, that he found out what? Of what happened. Okay, that she had died. Okay, so he hears the gunshot, and it says, he turned, he spurred to the west, he did not know who stood bowed. So he didn't know it was her who had gotten shot. He just hears a gunshot, and he's like, oh, okay, I better not go that way, and he turns back around. So it wasn't until the next morning that he gets the news.
Back he spurred like a madman, shrieking a curse to the sky, with the white road smoking behind him and his rapier brandished high. Blood red were his spurs to the golden noon, wine red was his velvet coat, when they shot him down on the highway, down like a dog on the highway, and he lay in his blood on the highway, with the bunch of lace at his throat.
Okay, so he had turned around because he hears a gunshot. He didn't turn around because he knew that she had shot her, herself to warn him. So he goes away. He hears about it the next day, and what's he do? He goes back. He's angry, right? And what ends up happening to him? He ends up dying anyways. Okay, he ends up getting shot anyways.
And still of a winter's night, they say, when the wind is in the trees, when the moon is a ghostly galleon tossed upon cloudy seas, when the road is a ribbon of moonlight over the purple moor, a highwayman comes riding. A highwayman comes riding up to the old inn door. Over the cobbles he clatters and clangs in the dark inn yard, and he taps with his foot on the shutters. The hall is locked and barred. He whistles a tune to the window, and who should be waiting there but the landlord's black-eyed daughter, Bess, the landlord's daughter, plaiting a dark red love knot into her long black hair.
Okay, so tragic end for both of them. Okay, so what I want you to do, we still have about like 9-10 minutes left. I want you to try to get through as much of those questions as you can for that on docs, and then we'll talk about them.